Injury-wise, there's a couple of guys that'll be on the report. We'll see how the week goes. Nothing of any reporting necessity, but we'll see what they look like as a week. We're dealing with the effects of playing 8 weeks of football, and guys are fighting through some things. So some guys may miss practice. We'll rest a few guys, but that'll be a day-to-day thing, and just kind of how these guys work through the week. So nothing of any consequence to announce necessarily. So why don't you guys go ahead?
Today?
Yeah, we'll come out to practice today. We're going to try to get a feel for where he's at for some rest, see how he feels throwing the ball, see how it looks. The more important part for Will right now is going to be not just today, but Thursday, Friday worth of days consecutively throwing to see how that goes. He feels good after the rest and some time off of throwing, so we'll see what it looks like as the week goes along. Hard to say that would have anything to do with it. I think more importantly, I thought Calvin did all the things that he was supposed to do to get open, and then the ball was thrown, was delivered on time, and really put in the spots for him to go make plays on it, which was great. And he made the plays that came to him. Finding more ways to use them, for me, just more different ways we can move them into formation and routes we can put them on. We knew we were going to see a heavy dose of man coverage against Detroit. That's kind of who they are. They're good at it, and so we felt like we could manufacture a matchup or two, move Calvin inside some, and got him on branch and on the nickel 21. So just some things that we did maybe a little bit different for him to get him the ball, but that's hopefully what the standard is for him. As far as
consulting with somebody or coaching help
Sure.
from outside the organization.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that have people that they trust and lean on. Just like I do, people that I consult with and talk to. I think there's a place for that, and then there's guys that people trust, and there's advice that they trust, and sometimes that outside perspective has a different view of what's happening. They see it from a different perspective because they're not in the day-to-day, and so I think there's a benefit to that. A lot of guys have people that they lean on and trust, whether it be their trainers from other places in terms of how their bodies feel, people they work with, people they talk to. I think that's all well and good. I think most guys have something along those lines somewhere, and I'm part of their team, so I would say it's pretty normal.
Brian, when it comes
Yeah, that's an ongoing process. There's a tenets of offensive football that I believe in. There's part of a core of our system, and there's core plays and core things that we adhere to that, when things get hard, we lean on those things because we know those are the things that we believe work. There's also the other part of it where you're trying to find things that the quarterbacks are comfortable with. And I've learned more as the games have gone on. I learned more about that with Will and how he plays. You don't know anything about anybody or any quarterback until you play football, until you're in the heat of it and it matters. Even the preseason is not real football. You don't really. It's not real. It's hard to get a gauge. So as I've actually gone through games with Will, you start to see where things that he likes, and I take feedback. Same thing with Mason. That's the best way to do it. That's the most cohesive way to find what works for everybody. Is you still have to have something you believe in and a system you believe in, but then how do you supplement that with what the quarterback feels comfortable with? And we have those conversations all the time, every day, and I've learned quite a bit about them over the course of the last couple of weeks. And I know it feels like it's been 50 weeks, but it's been 6 games. So that's where we're at, and we're continuing to build and learn about each other. We're in a production business, and that's at some point you reach that apex where we do have to win or show that we're improving. All those things are all a part of it, and you really want to make sure that the rest of the team feels the same way too. You reach a certain point where if they don't feel like that gives them the best chance to win, that's always the hardest part, because you got a bunch of guys that put their bodies on the line every week too, or it means something to them, and they don't take they want them held to the same standards. If your position is not playing well, usually what happens? Find somebody else. And so sometimes that you get to a certain point where that also happens, where guys are fighting and trying and fighting through injuries and playing hard, and they just sometimes want to make sure that the rest of it's in line with that too. And so that's where it gets tricky if you're not playing well and you're trying to develop and still win. So again, these are like really deep philosophical conversations for a Wednesday, but those are all the things that go into it.
element of that fan base that says that's the plan. You not only they don't only want to see you lose to get it; they think that you're planning to lose
Sure.
to get it.
I understand.
Your thoughts on those?
I understand that, from the outside looking in, that's easy to say when you don't have any dog in the fight. But I'll say this: I've never been anywhere, and I've been on some teams that have lost games, where at any point that is part of our thought process. That's not for me to think about. If people out there want to think about it, or that's an organizational, they're looking at different things, that's fine, that's their job. But our job is to go put the best product on the field every single week, play as hard as we can, do everything we can to win a game. And I'll always take that stance. That is always what I believe in, for the same reason I just said. There's a bunch of guys where this is their job and their livelihood, and it means something to them. And they put themselves on the line, they put their bodies on the line, they fight through injuries, and at no point would that ever be something that anybody in a football coaching or locker room would ever think about or try to do. That's not how this works for us. There's too much at stake and too much at risk for anybody to do anything other than everything they possibly can to go win a game. How long you guys want to sit here?
I was just saying, you probably have a great long answer on that.
No, I think there's a lot of things that go into that. There is, and I think before I speak on any of it, I think every situation is a little bit different, and every player and organization has different ways they go about it. So I'm not speaking for anybody, but I just think there's a couple of factors at play for some of the things that happen in the league. I think one, the quarterback position is the toughest position to play in sports. It's really difficult to play quarterback, and then it's even more difficult to play at a level that everybody wants their quarterback to play at. The top 4 or 5 guys in the league, everybody's searching for that. It's really hard to do, and there's some of the factors I think are, there's the economic factor of having a young quarterback on a rookie deal that allows for financial flexibility, so you can build a better roster and not pay the quarterback what they're getting paid now, $60 million plus now, as a part of the whole picture of building a team. I think college football and NFL football are so dramatically different right now. There's very few pro-style offenses in college. There's a lot of things about what those guys do in college that works really well in college, and then there's a whole different level when you get here. The biggest thing for me, the protections, understanding protections, how to protect yourself, how to set protections, the pressures you see in the high leverage spots in games. So those are just some minor things, but there's also then now the patience part, which, as we all know, as I said the other day, there's not a lot of patience in pro sports in general, and sometimes it does take a little bit of time to learn all of those things. And then there's you're balancing winning with developing, and that's a very, very hard thing to do in pro football, probably in every professional sport, because fans want success and ownerships want success, and all of those things are all normal. They're part of it, but I think sometimes those things conflict and they run into each other, where you're trying to win because people's jobs are on the line, and then you're trying to develop because guys need development. So it's a really tricky thing, but I think it also stems mostly from the fact that it's just such a difficult position to play, and there's so much demand on that position that you have to play a good amount of football to learn all of those lessons, I think. So I could talk about this for a really long time. I won't bore everybody, but there's a lot of things that I think go into it. I don't know about it. Nobody likes to embrace the suck, unfortunately, but yeah, I think when you look across the league and you look at the organizations that believe in development, that believe in continuity, that do things without being overly reactionary to a negative dip, a down game, a down season. Those are the organizations you tend to see sort of in the mix most of the time. And I don't need to point anybody out, but I think there's a lot of places out there that are willing to weather some negativity, some impatience from the outside world, knowing that they believe in what they're doing and how they're doing it. So those are things I think when you look around, you see that there is some correlation between those things when you have some patience and are willing to go through some development at the end of the day.